New questions now on whether we're in the midst of a cultural reckoning on sexual harassment amid the fallout over sexual misconduct allegations against Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, Senator Al Franken, and Congressman John Conyers, not to mention Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein and TV newsman Charlie Rose. And now Congressman Joe Barton of Texas apologizing after a lewd photo of him appeared online. Joining us now, a writer who warns this may not be the enormous cultural change some may think. Philip Wegmann is here. He's a commentary writer for the Washington Examiner. So let me start with some questions that are swirling about. Are we witnessing a revolution in real time? Will there be a cultural change in the wake of this period we're living through? You think not. Why?
Well, I think that the bottom absolutely fell with Harvey Weinstein. The bottom fell out with Harvey Weinstein, and I think that the best thing that we can compare this to is actually the Dreyfus affair in 19th century France. It affected all of that nation's leaders. I think what we're seeing today is victims are confronting their predators in politics, in culture, and also in sports. And as bad as that is, I think what this backlash shows, what it shows is that what was acceptable in D.C. or Hollywood, it just doesn't fly in flyover country. So and my hope is that this is reaching a tipping point.
So we are going to see a change, is what you're telling me.
Absolutely. I hope so.
Okay. And listen, there is absolutely no room for unwanted sexual advances, verbal or physical. But how do we sift through or sift out the valid allegations that should bring about criminal charges or actions like losing a job or a position of prominence?
Well, I think that in this case, we need to make certain that we, one, don't fall prey to double standards. We can't just excuse bad behavior from someone because we like their politics. That's just inexcusable. We need to be bipartisan in rooting this frankly, this evil out. And the other thing is we need to affirm due process. If you are a private citizen, you have the right to face your accusers in a court of law. But if you're a politician, due process comes in the courtroom of public opinion, and you're going to have your day of reckoning at the ballot box. Mm-hmm. So I think that we need to make certain that we are supporting some of these accusers and that we are weighing seriously and honestly these allegations.
And at what point will the social media factor take a turn, whether it's blocking certain posts, I'm just throwing stuff out here, or, some way of vetting these allegations?
Well, what we've seen is a snowball effect. It started with Weinstein, and it's just kept going since then. There's a long list at this point. But I do see some reasons for hope. For instance, after the Conyers allegations surfaced, you had Representative Ron DeSantis of Florida introduce legislation that he's calling the Conyers rule, which would bar congressmen from using taxpayer funds to hide their sexual mistakes, to stop them from using taxpayer funds to quiet their accusers. And I think that's an incredibly positive step. But look, this is not going to stop. This is not going to change until you have fathers pull aside their sons and say, look, don't you ever do what these men have been accused of doing.
But in the meantime, they're a bunch of grown-up boys behaving badly.
Absolutely. But I think that what we've seen is, look, you've got guys like Al Franken in Minnesota, you've got guys like Roy Moore in Alabama, and just weeks ago, they thought that their
You see, but this is what I'm talking
unlocked.
about, Philip. I mean, we're mentioning those two people in the same breath, and certainly, as I said before, there is no room for any sort of unwanted sexual advances, whether it's physical or otherwise, online, via letter, by mail, however you do it, it's unwanted. But here we sit, and we're talking about, in one breath, a man who is alleged to have had sexual inappropriate conduct with underage girls, and then another person who acted completely in a stupid fashion and messed around perhaps unwantedly in a way with a former coworker, but two adults. Again, both bad, but both different. Apples and oranges here.
I think you're right. We need to be clear what we're talking about in the moment. We can't lump in sexual harassment with rape. These are two very different things, and we need to be careful in making that distinction. But the point that I'd like to make right now is that I think that the electorate is having such a backlash at this impropriety, regardless of how terrible it is on the scale. The electorate is saying right now, we're just not going to stand for what might work in D.C. or Hollywood that doesn't fly in flyover country.
And to your point, absolutely, none of the bad behavior is accepted on any level, especially from our leaders in Congress. Okay, Philip Wegmann, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You got